Yes.
With another certified fresh show actor, James D'Arcy.
Yes, James D'Arcy, who stars as Edwin Jarvis on Agent Carter. Or is it Marvel's Agent Carter?
You got to get Marvel in
Marvel's
there.
Agent Carter.
Yes.
This is...
Lawyers, put your pens down.
Right.
You don't have to write us a letter.
This is the show that centers on Peggy Carter, kind of post-World War II, and as she's getting over the loss of Captain America and trying to navigate her career in a world that doesn't think women are very capable of doing cool stuff.
Even though women were the ones keeping everything going during World War II.
Continues to kick 10 kinds of ass in this movie.
But
in this TV show.
In this TV show, the women are relegated again to, making lunches and because all the men have come home. Right.
So I got the chance to talk to him. We'll play that in just a second. I want to take a quick break for commercial. When we come back, we will play that interview with Mr. James D'Arcy. This is the Rotten Tomatoes podcast. Thanks again for listening to the Rotten Tomatoes podcast. If you like what you hear, check out Off Camera with Sam Jones.
This is another show on the Wolf Pop Network for you to listen to, and it's an innovative documentary series featuring honest and thoughtful commentary from some of today's most iconic actors, directors, artists, musicians, and athletes. These are the people that you want to listen to on a podcast.
Yeah, he's got some really interesting guests, and he gets these really long interviews. So it's people like Jason Sudeikis, Jennifer Beals, Judy Greer, Jackson Brown, the dude himself, Jeff Bridges.
A.K.A. The Bridge.
Yes. The most recent episode has the one and only Matt Damon, who is dying for his own golden tomato. But you can download that latest episode of Off Camera with Sam Jones today at wolfpop.com. All right, welcome back to Rotten Tomatoes podcast. I'm Matt Atchity, editor-in-chief of RottenTomatoes.com.
Gray Drake.
And Sarah Ricard.
As we teased before the break, we are going to play an interview that I had with Mr. James D'Arcy. He stars as Edwin Jarvis on Marvel's Agent Carter. Great interview. Talked about what it's like working on the show. And I was really excited to talk to him because I'm a big fan of the show. So let's take a listen to that interview. So I have to ask, you look like you're having a lot of fun on this show. Everybody does. Is it as much fun as it looks?
It's actually much more fun than it looks, I have to be honest. It is the single most fun job I have ever done.
More fun than jumping around the ships in Master and Commander.
Yeah, but Master and Commander was perhaps not quite as much fun to make as it is to watch.
Okay.
You know, it was a very small ship and a lot of sweaty men. So, and for a very long time. So that actually is surprisingly less fun than flirting with Hayley Atwell. That turns out to be more entertaining.
Now, were you a fan of Marvel Comics going into this show?
I'm not, I would say, a big comic book person. I remember reading them when I was a kid. I remember being really interested predominantly in the things that you could buy at the back. I don't know if you remember, you used to be able to buy, like, X-ray specs and stuff like that.
Oh, right, and build-your-own hovercraft.
They were the bits that used to really get me going when I would read comic books. I was like, because I believed that they really were X-ray, by the way. So I would think, oh my God, I've got to have them. But you needed a zip code to get them sent to, and in England, you don't have a zip code, you have a postcode. So I was ineligible to buy these X-ray specs, which was infuriating because I thought I could totally get the jump on my classmates by being able to see through walls, etc., unless I moved to America.
Well, and here you are working for the guy who could potentially create X-ray specs.
I mean, they actually already have. I don't want to give too much away, but they exist, and I own 3 pairs.
So, what is your favorite thing about Edwin Jarvis as a character?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question. Look, I love his wry outlook on the world. I love that he is essentially a good person and is unashamedly trying to do his best in the world. I genuinely love that in 1946, at a time when the word sexism had not even really been invented, never mind come into common parlance, that he is almost the only person in the show who treats our leading lady with dignity and respect, and fully sees her as an entirely rounded human being. I love the fact that there's plenty of comedic opportunity with this character, but without sending it up. Hopefully we keep it rooted in something real. And I really love the fact that our writers have written such fantastic banter for Peggy and Jarvis. It's so much fun to do. Hayley and I are great friends anyway. We've been friends for a long time. But there's no guarantee that when you get on camera that any of that would translate to, what they call chemistry or whatever. But from the first day we started shooting, and I give most of the credit here to the writers because they wrote it so beautifully for us, we just laugh our heads off all day. We honestly have an embarrassingly good time on the show. And hopefully that translates into something on screen as well.
I think it does, although I have to say I kind of expected early on that there would be, almost this kind of buddy-buddy bond between the two Brits on the show, but I feel like Peggy and Jarvis are still kind of feeling each other out, and they're still not totally sure about each other.
Well, we're 4 hours into our 8-hour story, and I think that if we didn't have some kind of a journey to go on, then that would make for not terribly interesting drama. And I do think that is what is quite brilliant about the people who work for Marvel is they know their business, so not only do you have the action adventure stuff that you would fully expect, but you have real, genuine character, which perhaps you'd be less expectant of. And you have moments of great levity and wry irony and comedy in a quite sophisticated way, which, again, maybe now we are becoming more expectant of Marvel to do things like that because they have a sense of fun about all of their shows and their movies. But I think it's very clever the way they spin all the plates at the same time. And so, Peggy and Jarvis are in a very tricky situation right now. But as with everything in this show, the floor is continuously, the tectonic plates beneath us are moving all the time. So, and there is going to be an earthquake. Not an actual earthquake. I'm talking about a metaphorical earthquake, by the way.
Right. No spoilers. As the person who's kind of defining the role of Jarvis and knowing where that character's going, do you feel a little, almost a fatherly sense to what Paul Bettany may be doing or expectation about what's coming up for the Avengers?
No, I don't, actually, is the short answer to that. I mean, I've kidded around saying, I think that because I predate Paul, he probably should go back and now revoice his character based on what we've done in 1946. But the reality is, he's playing an AI system who is based on Tony Stark's memory of what Jarvis was like. And, given that we're in 1946 and Tony Stark, I do the math, but he's probably born in the 60s. So, it's a much older Jarvis that he would have encountered. I feel like there's so much freedom there that I really don't have, obviously, we're both English. I think that's probably a fairly crucial part of this. But, and obviously there's a sensibility, the AI system is based on his memories or even the best version of who he hoped Jarvis would be in his life, So I feel like there is definitely freedom for me to not worry too much about what is happening in the future.
So we're halfway through the season. Is there anything coming up that we haven't seen yet that you can hint that you're really excited that the audience gets to see? As you say, we're halfway through the season, and I feel like that's always, getting on board the ride and to further any kind of roller coaster analogy, getting up to the top is the bit where you have the anticipation and the excitement as to what it is. But we are now arriving at a point where we're going for the big dip, and you just have to put your arms in the air and let it fly. The pace increases exponentially with each episode from now on. It's pretty intense. The stakes get progressively higher and higher,
and brilliantly there is resolution across the board for all the characters, not just in terms of our plot, but in terms of the character work that we have as well, and the social commentary that's taking place that sort of is like the baseline below all of this. All of this is resolved within the 8 episodes in a really satisfying way. So if you're on the roller coaster, I think you're going to really enjoy the rest of the ride.
That's good to know. James D'Arcy, thank you very much for joining me today.
No worries. Thanks, Matt.
That was the great James D'Arcy, star of Marvel's Agent Carter, talking about he may secretly have gadgets made by Howard Stark, which is kind of cool.
Where does he get all those marvelous toys?
Exactly.
Paraphrase.
Exactly. Okay, so Marvel's Agent Carter is on
Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. on ABC, and again, certified fresh.
Woo!
Certified Fresh.
Go
yeah.
Marvel.